Hello out there. Welcome to our podcast today, The Brand and the Source. This is Coach Eric Johnson, The Brand.
And this is Coach Aaron Thigpen, the Source. EJ, first tell them about some of the things we got coming up.
Sure, Aaron. Sounds good. I believe, Aaron, later, I think it's the third week in February, on that Saturday from 10 to 12, we are having a seminar for all you travel ball athletes in any sport about navigating your son or daughter in travel sports. And it's going to be at Game Speed in Concord. Really looking forward to that and giving some knowledge to the parents, Aaron, about, really how to navigate their athlete in this day and age in travel sports. I think it's going to be a great seminar on that day.
Yeah, that's going to be Saturday, February 25th. So, guys, come on down, get some good information. Check us out. Today's podcast, Pedigree or Pretender? Who's coaching your athlete? So I guess we might want to put this, for some of you guys might think, maybe we'll put this in our haters series.
The haters.
Today, maybe we're gonna have a little bit of hating, I guess. Or I got my haterade here. So
Well, we're gonna spice it up a little bit, Aaron. As I always say, spice it up. It's gonna be spicy today because as you know out there, we have a lot of pretenders, and not enough guys with pedigree and the knowledge. So it's all right today. We're gonna spice it up, Aaron.
Yeah. I mean, it's just that people are spending good money, and there's a lot of people getting burned, and there's a lot of the guys who are selling things that they're not producing. They're not giving the parents what they're asking for. So, and this is a process that everyone should be going through. It's really about how to vet your coach. And I guess there's different ways to look at how to vet a coach. I always think there's a combination. You always want to find someone who has a combination of experience as an athlete, experience as a coach, and time in both of those fields, not brief stints. And again, there's a lot of good coaches out there, especially young coaches who are just getting started.
Right.
Okay. But you've also got to be careful that individual can give your athlete what they're looking for. And I know our business goes off a reputation. I mean, I get a lot of my athletes by referral, but I still, one reason why I have a website is so that people can go and look and see what I'm about, where I've been, so that way they understand who I am as a coach, kind of where my philosophy is, where I'm going, and be comfortable and confident in sending their athlete to me. And nowadays, I see guys who are, coming up in the field, or may have been in the field, and they haven't really seemed to they don't put any of their credentials out there. You go to a website and it's just like their name in blank, and it's like, well, what's to make the parent and the athlete feel comfortable about you as a coach or a trainer, and where you've been and where you may be able to take them. And I think that's a key point, because it tells you a little bit about how this guy may be interacting with your kid. Or is he just a guy who hung up a shingle and said, hey, I'm giving batting lessons, or I'm giving speed lessons. Right. And so I think looking at that combination of athletic past, coaching and instructing past, and years of experience, that's an important combination, and you want to maximize that. So that's where I'd start, because again, if you're going to look for a doctor, you're going to look for a lawyer, you're going to look for any other professional, you'd probably want to know that. So, and you're entrusting your kid to this, or your athlete to this individual, I think you should do the same thing.
I agree with you 100%. I see a lot of this, happening. I mean, it happens to us. We always send people to our website, Aaron, all the time and say, hey, listen, find out what I'm about. I always say that, find out what I'm about. I think out there today, you just have a lot of people collecting paychecks or collecting money. And are we really helping the athlete? And I'm going to say this, helping them not only physically, but emotionally, mentally, and I think the mental side of it has a lot to do with it. You and I competed at a high level. We understand that, the pressure of that feeling at that intense level. That's our pedigree. That's our athletic past. And then the neat thing is that you and I have coached, national championship teams, and we know what that feels like too, being the coach. So I tell players and parents out there, have your goals. The first thing is have your goals. What are you looking for in a whether it's a private coach, instructor, whatever. What are your goals? Write those things down and see if that coach, has that same kind of philosophy. I think you said the word correct, philosophy, earlier, about what are they about. What do they want to do? And I tell players this: what is your goal at the end of the day? Do you want to be, do you want to be a high school athlete? Do you want to be a college athlete? You want to be a professional athlete? Well, be affiliated with somebody that has, is moving in that direction. And I think that's kind of important there. Just don't have somebody that has a lot of fluff and not a lot of content.
Yeah. And, again, you'll have to decide what weight each of those areas I spoke on carries. Maybe athletic experience carries more weight with you than, coaching experience or time in. But, not all great athletes make great coaches, and there are some very good coaches and trainers who hadn't played the game, but, they've got time in. So you want to research all of that, and you want to have an idea of, okay, hey, is this skill set, this trainer's skill set, this coach's skill set commensurate with what my athlete needs to learn at this point in his development, So right. For a beginner, a younger coach or a less experienced coach may be fine, if they're still teaching the fundamentals and establishing that foundation, may be fine. If it's just, hey, this is what I did, well, I don't think that's as, a strong a reason. So you want to, say, hey, look, if my kid is more, maybe you mentioned something about the mental aspect, which is key. And I talk more and more now about that being the big separator. We had a group of softball team in last night, and right. That was the lecture I gave, the 5-minute lecture I gave them. One of the biggest deciding factors is not the physical, it's the mental. And so, if that's the case, that's not something that just happens. That's something that's fostered and built with athletes as well. And that's done with the proper coaches, with the proper trainers, so that mental aspect of the game, whether it be from a tactical sense, whether it be from a competitiveness sense, whether it be from a technical sense, that's also important. You want to have someone who's going to start to develop those mental muscles so that they learn how to handle pressure situations. They learn how to overcome adversity. They learn how to, not get cocky, get the big head. They learn how to, be graceful in their successes. Those are things that are learned as well. They're learned in the home, but they're also learned, in their interaction with their coaches and their trainers. And so I think that's a component that people don't always look at. Sometimes, what I tell a lot of athletes is it's not how much the trainer knows. It's just if he or she can communicate it to you. And if what's working, if it's working, there's no need to look for someplace else, you know? And the other thing I always say is, you know, are you also being able to grow, you know, as an individual with this person? Yeah. You know, are they teaching you the right things? You know, are they teaching to be a sore loser? Are they teaching you to, you know, to be, right, you know, cocky? Are they, you know, are they teaching you good athletic traits and habits? Or are they teaching you bad? Now, they may have a great skill set, but, you know, and it just popped in my head, but Cobra Kai from Karate Kid.
Yeah, Karate Kid, right.
Those guys were badass karate guys, but the philosophy and the things that the guy was teaching, you know, weren't right. And then on the other side, you got Mr. Miyagi, wax on, wax off, very simple, you know. So again, it's not just about the athletic skill set, technical skill set, but it's about also, you know, I think the growth of the person as well. And, you know, one of the compliments that I always hear parents give you, EJ, is that we want to get our kid with a good person.
Right.
You know, that's what they say. We like EJ because we want our kids to be around good people. And I think that's probably, you know, the biggest compliment you can get. And that's really kind of what this is all about. Because we're not all going to swing a bat for, you know, hundreds of $1,000s a year or shoot a ball through a hoop for millions of dollars a year. So I think that time that's spent, you should be choosing quality people and getting your athlete around quality people more so than anything else.
Thanks for that compliment. I appreciate that. I'm going to tell you, this is really funny. You took the words right out of my mouth, because I always say interpersonal growth, that these athletes and their instructors have together. You know, it's, you know, people say it takes a village, right? It takes a village for, you know, your development of a person, and it does. And I think, you know, when coaches can coach players and bring the best out in them to where they're quality people. And, you know, I'll take a page out of Rob Bruno from, you know, one of our podcasts, or one of our podcasts, is that it's a 40-year investment. I use that a lot because it's true.
I like that term.
I love that term. It's a 40-year investment. You want this athlete to go out and be, you know, the best they can be in life at the end of the day. And I think, you know, when you're looking at a coach that can influence people in a positive way, they're going to get a lot out of, you know, not only the instruction's the instruction, man. I tell you that. At the end of the day, you know, when we get to the end of your career, wherever that is, you start becoming savvy and smarter. If you're in it, you're vetted into this and you really want to do it. And you start taking those lessons that you get from that instructor long time ago that they taught you, and you start to use those to help you get through the end part of your career. And those things kind of carry on to the next journey in your life. They're stepping stones. So it's interesting, you know, Aaron, I always tell people, you know, and you said this earlier, I'm going to go back to this about, you know, when a younger athlete is starting out, you know, you don't have to go get the best coach. Go find somebody that can relate to your kid.
Yes.
That they can feel comfortable with. Yeah, that is so important, that they can relate, feel comfortable, and don't feel like, oh, I'm making a mistake. What's wrong with me? You don't want to be around people like that with your kid. No, you want to have that relationship to where that young person has a trust in that person that's teaching them, and they feel comfortable not to make mistakes and are able to go out and just free it up. And you know what? You know, I never say it's like, hey, man, you made a mistake. It's a learning experience, and there's growth in that. And can we keep on getting better? And that's a process. You know, it's not something really quick, like a quick fix. And I tell everyone out there too, Aaron, when you're looking for somebody, it's not a quick fix. Yeah. I think that's a whole nother subject here about quick fixes, you know, quick fix syndrome. That's what I see a lot these days, is that quick fix syndrome. I got to get ready for this meet. I have 4 weeks in, or I have 2 weeks. I gotta get faster, or stuff like that. And I know you can and talk about that subject. That happens to both of us quite often sometimes. But yeah, I think that's important.
Well, yeah, I mean, to relate that to what we're talking about, again, when you're vetting some of these coaches and trainers, be careful of some of the promises, some of these quick fix promises. I know it sounds great, but not everything is always that simple. And so, we have the podcast Magic Beans that kind of talks about that a little bit, about where, you got to be careful about chasing everything that's put out there. And I know with social media, it's very easy to get enamored with what's being shown on the social media of, a baseball team, a basketball team, a coach, a trainer, and let that influence you. But, I always say, lift up the hood, kick the tires. You may not know exactly what you're looking for, but you might see something that doesn't resonate with you,
Right.
So I always say, dig a little deeper, take a time to read their website. If they don't have a website, find out more about them, and maybe ask why, because anyone who I feel who's worth their salt in this business has no problem putting up, who they are, where they've been. It kills me. You'll pull up a site and the guy say he's been in the business for 15 years, but he has no bio. You gotta, you gotta wonder why. And it's not about, having a fluff page or anything like that.
Right.
But, you should be able to state, hey, this is who I am. This is what I stand for. This is where I've been. And just to kind of backtrack a little bit, you talked about Rob Bruno's quote, which I love too, is this for a lot of kids is a 40-year investment in terms of who they are in their development as a person. A couple examples. I just spent an hour and a half talking with one of my athletes who's about 45, 46, who I coached years ago at Chabot, who's now opening his own sports performance center out in the Central Valley. And, that was one of the things he says. He goes, coach, even though you weren't necessarily working with the jumpers, because I was a sprint coach, but he goes, I remember your philosophy and how you interacted with, he sprinted sometimes, but how you interact with us, and kind of, he took some of those lessons and now he puts them into play with his athletes, and also as well as business, and that was something that happened 20 something odd years ago. So, the interaction you have with your coaches does reverberate, those ripples go out far, they're far, reaching. And so you want to make sure your athlete is in, the presence of people who are going to give those kind of positive, ripples. The other example real quick was we had lunch with Ben Clark, who's now getting married, and this is a kid, what you've probably had since he was in the 6th grade,
Right. Exactly.
And one of the things he mentioned is, hey, I took your teachings, and we weren't necessarily, we were teaching him as a baseball athlete, but there are other things that he got with his experiences with us that also have shaped him, into, being the young man he is now, and moving on and getting married and playing baseball, collegiately. So, it's satisfying to hear, definitely on our end, but those are some of the unforeseen, I guess, negative and positive reverberations of your interactions that your kid has that you really need to think about, because, it might sound cliche-ish, but you can, coaches and teachers and other individuals who come in your athlete's life can shape who they are, for better or for worse. So, just like, again, finding any other professional, you want to make sure they're around quality people.
Yeah.
and people who are real. I mean, uh, just one more thing. We got the guy who's in, now to talk politics. So some of you guys might turn this off right now, but you got the guy, what's it, Santos,
Out
come
of New
on.
York.
Yeah,
Right.
the guy lied on his resume, and he lied to a pretty big extent. And, I don't carry water for Democrats or Republicans, but, that's got to make me wonder about the integrity of this guy, and I wouldn't want someone like that representing me, and so I think it's the same thing in sports. If a guy has to do all of that just to get the job, he's probably not of the moral fiber or character that I really want my kid around.
Yeah. You couldn't have said that any better. Be around quality people out there, parents, and that can influence your kids in a positive way that could make them be better people in the long run. That's what we're really saying at the end of the day, Aaron. And do have pedigree and do have experience, but also have those good interpersonal skills to have growth. Okay. So, hey, with that said, Aaron, you got anything else for the people out there we got coming up, Aaron? I think that's it. Just follow us, right? Follow us as much as you can.
I just, continue to listen to the podcast. I know there's a lot of you guys out there. We'd love to hear from you. I'm always saying that. Tell your friends, send us questions, a quick text, a quick email. It all gives us information for our next podcast, helps to kind of spark that conversation. These also are being put on our YouTube channel. So if you can stand looking at our mugs for 30 or 40 minutes, go to the YouTube channel. But we do appreciate you guys listening. Spread the word. And again, we've got some good things coming up, especially that seminar. I think that's going to be a great first step for a lot of parents and getting some information and just getting to know us too.
Well, thanks for tuning in today. This is Coach Eric Johnson, the brand.
And Coach Aaron Thigpen, the source. We'll see you.